Welcome to Human Potential at Work, the show where we explore social impact, inclusion, and empowerment of everyone, including persons with disabilities. Get ready to be inspired, hear success stories, and learn tips and principles for bringing out the best in everyone.
Hello, everyone. This is Deborah Rue, and this is Human Potential at Work. My guest today is also Deborah. Her name is Deborah Davis, and she's a business owner. And I've been following her. We've been following each other for a long time on social media. She's a really, really cool business, and I really like the way she thinks, the way she said off air she's not an advocate, but she acts like an advocate to me. But she's really making a difference, and I really wanted y'all to know about her work. So, Deborah Davis, welcome to the program, and maybe you can start by telling the audience who you are and a little bit about your business too.
Sure. Well, I just want to mention what I was talking about as being an advocate. It's not that I'm a self-proclaimed advocate. My whole life isn't about advocacy. What I was trying to say is that I just live my life and I do what's right. And in doing that, you become an advocate. And
well said. Well said.
Yeah. Our discussion was really about, an example. And we were talking about one of my businesses, which is a travel agency that we just started last year. Because, we were marketing tours through pushliving.com that were accessible tours. And we found that they really weren't. And they were difficult and uncomfortable, and people didn't really understand what access meant. So you and I were having a discussion like off camera before we started about advocacy and how, for example, a major line in a hotel was saying, hey, our whole hotel isn't accessible. You can't get to the pool area, but we can have our staff lift you. So my advocacy is saying, well, we're not going to be booking with your hotel because that's just not going to be suitable for us. So when, just living your life and making sure you work with businesses that are inclusive, right, and you gently, as much as possible, let them know when they're not. Advocating to me means supporting other businesses that are disability-owned enterprises. I think that's huge. How better to bring up and elevate the community than to support businesses that are owned by people with disabilities?
I agree. And I know there's a certification. I was involved with, I was one of the leaders that helped create it at the Disability:(IN. They certify disability-owned businesses.
Yeah, and I did that, and I actually wanted to do that years ago, but I'll be honest with you, there was a little bit of a barrier to me, and that was money. It costs a lot of money to get certified, and I know they need to have administrative costs, and they, at that time, I just said, well, it was just something I just couldn't afford.
And I can't remember because once again, I haven't looked at it in years, but I thought it was very important. And I really helped champion that because I agree with you. We need to be supporting business owners that are, that are people with disabilities and other business owners.
I'll do it if they give me a payment plan.
Well, it used to be, I thought it was between $300 to $500. I don't really know how much it is, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's okay.
But I know it's relevant. It is comparable to what you pay for other certifications, women's certifications and things like that. And I think all of those certifications are important, but I also am not certified in any of those things either. Just because the work that there's a lot of different reasons. I was certified in the past with my last company, Tech Access, but we just haven't done it at Real Global Impact. But I do think it's important, and it's important for the supply chain and certainly the national, the global supply chains for companies to support us. So anyway, but let's talk more.
I wanted to just to go back to what you asked me originally. We have a stock photo site, and it's called Push Living Photos. We started pushliving.com, which was an online magazine. And, one of the things we realized is obviously imagery wasn't there. Stock photos are very bad, as you know. So we started creating them. We produced over 6,000, and we also had contributed over 6,000 authentic disability images. Now, I did get some slack because they're not completely representative of all disabilities. We're called Push Living. So our niche is, and it is, because we choose to do something well and not do all things poorly. So just as one person with a small team, we said, let's just focus on mobility disabilities. And if people need an image of somebody who has a mobility disability, could be a scooter, a wheelchair, yes, we do have people on there who have vision disabilities, who are blind, and we have some autism, but other people do that and they're doing it beautifully. So let them do it and let's support them in doing it. But our site focuses on disability. So that would be the perfect thing for that certification. If corporations and companies would want to buy from a disability owned business and use authentic imageries, that's where they can go, Push Living Photos. We pay all our models on every image that's sold, which is very unique and different. And since then, some of the powerhouses have come on board. They've done disability type campaigns to get more imagery. But the problem with that is that not all their imagery on their site is authentic. So they may have some, but a person who goes to that site may be looking for someone, you know, some diverse image, and they're going to find like, you know, 50% of them that are still models who are just standing up, who just jumped in a fake wheelchair and posed and sat for $100. And the photographer and that big stock image company gets a lot of money to sell these images, and it doesn't go back to the actual disability community where ours does. So every month I pay commissions to people who bought photos, to all my models and all my photographers who took a chance on our company.
Right. I know that there are some really good groups. I know that there's a group in Spain that is, they are doing wonderful images, and their photographers are for and about people with intellectual disabilities. So as you said, it's really cool. Yeah, and I always tell my clients that our community knows if you're just putting a model in a wheelchair. We can tell right away if it's authentic or not. We know. And so it's very important to use authentic photos. And we see some, like you said, we're seeing some images coming up, and I applaud everybody that's doing it, but it really is nice when you support the community and people that support the community themselves and things like that. But let's back up a minute.
Because I think I'm going to make sure I'm making a note to make sure I list all those companies. On our site on pushliving.com, we do have a resource section, and anybody who's a disability owned company can go in there for free and they can list their business. So I'd love to invite all those different stock image sites. You know, I think there's one called Facing Disability that deals just with autistic and developmental disabilities, and they're doing a beautiful job. So I'd love to support the one you just talked about in Spain.
Yeah, so let's back up and let's talk about, once again, who are you? How did you start this? Tell us about, I think that we sort of jumped in your business, but let's talk about who you are and how the business was started and what the business does. I know you've told us a little bit about the business already, you know, but tell us, you know, how did you even get involved? Because you have an interesting story.
I was a professional dancer. I was going to college. I was starting to go to college at Mount Vernon's in Washington, D.C. Before I started college, a Saturday I was going to fly down to my father to have a discussion with him about, you know, finances and the school and all that. That Thursday I had a car accident. I was on the Beltway coming home from work. I worked a long shift and I was tired, and it was snowing on the Beltway in Maryland, and I just crashed the car. I fell asleep and crashed. It was actually in a van. No seatbelt because it was the 80s, and I flipped the van and broke my neck at C6-7, and I was basically a quadriplegic. Didn't have use of my hands or my arms. I had, you know, biceps, so I could do this, but I couldn't do this, which is triceps. I was very, very fortunate that with 6 months of therapy back then, they allow you to go in the hospital and do rehab for up to 6 months. Now it's 6 weeks if you're out. But at that time, I had a lot of support at Rusk Institute in New York, and I was able to get my hands back and my biceps. So I'm still paralyzed from the chest down, so I don't do transfers well, but I do use a manual chair. And then, so from there, I just changed my course of history. My dad says, now you're going to University of Miami because your brother is there and you need to have someone kind of there to oversee you. I was 18. And I started my journey at University of Miami. I didn't know what to do. So he said, how about business? I'm like, okay. I was a dancer. I thought that's what I wanted to be. And business. And I said, finance. I did pretty good at that. I started nonprofit work. Of course, my first job was an internship with the Miami Project to cure paralysis, which was really just wonderful. So I got my chops, you know, with really getting in there and doing special events and marketing and PR. And then I worked for a PR agency, and then I just did a whole bunch of nonprofit development work, which basically means you go ask for sponsors for big giant galas and important events, and you speak. So I got a lot of really good skill sets to lead up to what I do now, which is basically around 2008, I decided to start my own business. I had two, in between all that, I raised two daughters and got married a few times. That didn't work out, and I'm single again. So that's kind of so now my kids are gone, the husband's gone, and I'm by myself in this office in Florida still, and trying to be a career woman and make a life for myself. So to be perfectly honest with you, so I don't end up in a nursing home one day and,
Well, you got things to do. You have, and,
work to do.
and we were talking about a subject that, not, off air about you're in the situation that you're single again, and I don't know if you're comfortable in air, as I'm totally putting you on the spot now, where we were talking about the sex word, sex, but I just thought it was so interesting that when you noted off air that when some of your friends advised you how to, post on the dating site. And I just think it's an important point because, first of all, you're a human being and you're a beautiful woman. So I didn't know if you wanted to just talk about that, because I don't think we talk about it enough.
Well, it's funny because I brought it up because it related to my business, because I was telling you that my original idea, and it's still there, is to do a documentary about women with disabilities.
Yes.
And I actually just spoke to someone last week who knows people in the production industry who can help me with that, and we were going to pitch it. But the idea was because at that time I was in between marriages and I was single, like I am now. And I found that it was such a difficult thing to overcome the stereotypes. Can she have sex? Do I have to take care of her? Am I going to have any fun with her? What can she do? I mean, it's just easier for a guy to find a girl who can walk than to, and one guy actually even told me, he said, listen, I really think you're amazing. And we had a kind of a connection, that can happen sometimes, just when you meet someone. He goes, but I really don't feel that I could live my life with someone who lives in a wheelchair, because I really like to hike, and I want to be able to do things freely, and I want my partner to do those things with me. And I understood that, but I also knew that he was very, very wrong. Because I know for a fact that I might not be able to hike, but you might find a million girls who can hike, but they might be real bitches. They might not be nice. They might be selfish. They might be, not great in bed. I might be better. Who knows? And the funny thing is that the stereotypes are just so profound that it limits us, and it limits us socially with our interactions, even with girlfriends. It's hard to find people to even want to go out with you as a girlfriend because you're a little bit different, and you have to have access. You can't get in every bar. You can't get in every restaurant. And now that they have these high top tables, really makes it harder for us to even, go somewhere. The girls have to sit somewhere else because the high top tables aren't accessible. So,
and also you can hike. There are not as enough, but there are many parks that are accessible, so you can hike.
Exactly.
So, and you can also dance. You're dancing, and I don't know if you've done that, but we talked about Push Girls, which you were Push Living before that show came on, but they were showing dancing. I see dancing all the time. Dancing is all in, and I'm a dancer. I love the Zumba, but.
Oh, nice. I've never done that, but dancing, cooking, making love, being a best friend, being an intellectual,
like a person,
being an emotional equal. What about all the being your soul connection, being good to your kids and your family and thinking about you and all these things that make a woman and a partner
Great.
I'm still capable of. So a lot of my businesses actually kind of came out from that. So we have the magazine, which is Push Living Magazine, which talks about dating and life and romance and health. And the whole goal behind that is to elevate disability out of charity and fear, aversion, and also to make people who read it inspired. People like me, okay, that's really cool. Allie just got married, or such and such is now dating again, and how they do it. And this person just traveled to, Ireland. I can do it too. That kind of thing. But also, God knows, if someone does a search, you might want to date a girl in a wheelchair. They might read an article from Aaron, Allie's now husband, who talks about what it was like to date a girl in a wheelchair. It's an incredible article. We've had probably 30,000 hits on that one article, and it changes perception. Now, the stock image site does the same thing. Every time someone sees someone in a wheelchair in an article or a magazine or an advertisement, it takes away aversion. So then next time they either want to be their friend or maybe hire them, they kind of have that familiarity, and that familiarity changes, the feeling that people have of fear.
I agree. I agree. I agree.
So it seems like everything we do now, the travel agency is new. We just started that last year. We did a tour to Ireland, and we are doing Italy this year. That changes perception because, I was just telling you, Italy's not that accessible. They don't even know how to be accessible. Even the major hotels have areas that you can't get to. Well, we're going to go and we're going to change that. And we're going to tell them, hey, we're coming. We have people who want to visit you. Make your world accessible to all. It's not that hard, Italy.
Well, and that's what we've been talking about for years. I actually had a company that did that, but well, and my current company helps too. But I want to mention a couple of things. First of all, coming on, we're going to have Able Channel on the air in a couple of weeks. And I would highly recommend that you talk to them. They actually just came to my home and did they filmed us. They filmed my home for this channel, and it's an amazing channel. And they're going to do their first launch in May, and it's really it is a channel for people with disabilities and people with chronic health issues, and also they're dealing with aging. So it's really creating really beautiful content and telling the story. So I'll connect you to them. But I also want to make one more comment before I turn it over to you, in that you mentioned, because I think you'll like these two together, Deborah. So you mentioned inspiration. And by the way, people do find us inspiring. I get really sweet, nice comments. Every once in a while I get some trolling, but pretty much everything's very supportive and stuff of my work. But there is a balance in that. How do you make sure that the inspiration doesn't fall into the inspirational porn? And I know that's something that you're an expert in. So I thought maybe you could comment on those together.
I love that. Yeah, I am kind of an expert in it, in that I could smell that a mile away. I think it's detrimental. Inspiration porn, for your audience who doesn't understand it, we were the charity model. Let's feel sorry for you. Let's give you money. Everybody, my business, everybody still to this day, why aren't you a nonprofit? You have a stock photo site and it has to deal with people with disabilities. It should be a nonprofit. I even have people with disabilities yell at me because, God forbid, I made a profit on people with disabilities. No, sorry. We're businesses just like everybody else, just because
no, and profit's not bad. I keep hearing that. I keep hearing, I had a fight with this guy on Twitter because he was saying, yeah, all corporations are corrupt. And I'm like, it's ridiculous. Corporations are people. And are there bad things that happen? Are there bad things that people do in corporate? Yes, but it's ridiculous. I also chose not to be a for-profit. I wanted to be, a nonprofit. I wanted to be a for-profit that employs people with disabilities and kicks the butt out of my competitors that don't understand the value of doing that.
I love that.
Good for you.
A for-profit doesn't mean you make a lot of profit. And also we give 10% back, and we hire writers with disabilities. We hire models with disabilities. We, our staff, we try to do as much. Not everybody is going to have a disability, because even though I try, it doesn't always work out. A lot of our editors, actually all of our editors have disabilities, now that I think about it. Yeah, but my VA doesn't, my assistant doesn't, and that's okay.
So you're equal opportunity. You also hire people that aren't disabled, so good.
Yeah. So disability porn, going back to that, what that means is basically is, oh my God, and this is the sad thing, if I don't do disability porn, I don't get as good ratings. If I show you that I just ran in a mud race and I dragged my paralyzed body through the mud and I achieved this goal with all the help of all these able-bodied people, I'm a star. I will get 100,000 people telling me how wonderful I am and how great job I am. But if I show you that I'm a business leader and that I have a new product coming out and I just want to be like you, I might get 10 or 11 likes. People love to be inspired by people with disabilities. And unfortunately, that's not looking at us as equals. It's over emotionalizing us, and it's putting us on this pedestal, and it's focusing on the disability, which is what I don't want to do. Yes, I happen to be disability. I happen to be a mom too. I happen to be a businesswoman. I happen to be a girl who's looking for a man to love, all those things that make me who I am and human. And if you happen to be inspired by that, great. but I don't want to put myself out there as an inspiration. So even when I do public speaking, like all my coaches were like, this is what you should talk about, but I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to get that, that whole message about, look what I overcame and people crying because I'm paralyzed and I accomplished these things. That actually makes me really uncomfortable. And it makes me feel like a sideshow.
Well, and I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, I am inspired by you. And so it is a slippery slope, because you could say that every time, a Super Bowl commercial is done about people with disabilities, it's inspirational porn. And I hear people saying that, and then they're like, stop doing that. No, I want to see more people with disabilities on the, in the media and in movies and in the commercials. But there's a balance. And that's what I think people don't understand. There's a balance there. You're not saying don't have people with disabilities in the media. What you're saying is, I'm so much more than because I'm a wheelchair user. I'm so much more.
Okay, so I love what you just said. What my analogy is, and I hope people don't get offended by this who do inspiration porn, because I know a lot of people do it, and they make a good living on doing it. And that's okay. Here's the thing. If I'm on the doctors or Dr. Phil or the doctors, I mean, you guys, all the different, the Today Show, and I'm the, paralyzed bride, or I am the person who had an accident and drunk driving, and now she's doing this. I'm on the Today Show or the doctors talking about this, and I roll out, and it's very dramatic, and everybody's like, oh, she's pretty or whatever. That's inspiration porn. If I roll my butt out on the stage for the doctors, and I'm a doctor, and I'm going to be talking to you about a condition like every other doctor, and you never even talk about why I'm in a wheelchair or what I'm doing. You're just there. That's what my photo site's about. That's what my magazine, we just are there. We're placed there. We're not making a scene. We're not making a big to-do about it. We're just there. That's how you really elevate disability, and that's our hashtag, Elevate Disability. To be not the inspiration model, not the charity model, just another way of living in this life, and we're equal. I don't want to go into an employer and they're being like, they're not going to hire me for being an inspiration. Let's put it that way. The statistics prove it out.
Right.
They're going to hire the person to get the job done and do the programming or the marketing. That's it. They don't care about the wheelchair. And they can be inspired by me all day and think, oh my God, that girl's amazing, but they're not going to hire me for that.
Right. A very, very good point, because it's interesting. I hear people talking about inspirational porn, but I think you've just done the best job of explaining the difference between the two. That was, as a matter of fact, I'm totally going to steal it from you, and I'll give you credit for it, but it was a really good analogy. No, because I think people are confused by it. Yeah, people are confused. Don't you think they're confused about it? It's like, well, does that mean I don't include people with just no, that's not what we're saying. But you're a person, you have a life, you are mom, you're a business owner.
People are probably going to be mad about this too. But you have people who are in the HR world, and they're promoting hiring people with disabilities, and they take a snapshot at somebody at Blockbuster, and the kid is in a wheelchair and he's working at Blockbuster, and he doesn't know they took a snapshot at him. Click, and there's thousands of comments. Oh my God, it's so amazing that Blockbuster hired this person with a disability. That's inspiration porn. That's not cool. Right. And that's not okay. And you know what? Just there's other ways to do it without objectifying people and making it like you're such a wonderful company. You're so charitable minded for hiring this guy in a wheelchair. No, he's probably the best employee, and he's amazing.
Shows up to work, does his job, doesn't complain, is grateful for his job.
Knows more about. Oh, that was old because Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore.
I know, but it's okay. Still relevant. Still relevant. Yeah. So I know you talked a little bit about your new business, the travel and the accessibility, and I do want to say that we, as a company that, we're all about disability inclusion, we always try to use the authentic photos. So I did not realize that you had that photo line. So we're definitely going to do that.
I wasn't doing a good job. No wonder.
Well, I just didn't realize it. So I don't know how I missed it, but we have used and I'll connect you with the group in Spain, but we have used many of their images. We love, because it's authentic and we're supporting the community. But so that's really cool to know. And I always encourage corporations, please, please, please take the time to use authentic photos. We're going to spot them a mile away if you don't. And you know, the reality is when you're talking about disabilities, and we've addressed this a little bit, we're a billion plus strong people, and we're a very diverse community, and about 80% of disabilities are invisible. And so you can't assume that just because you see a person that doesn't look like they have a disability, they don't. That's part of what we talk about, the awareness and everything else. And so
that's your expertise.
yes, but it's still right. But I would still say though, it's still, what I always say is, even though maybe some of the models you used in the photo shoots, meaning, you know, maybe they did have disabilities, but you just can't see it. When it comes to photos and including that kind of stuff in your marketing and your, you know, you really want to be authentic, that is the time when you really do want to show people with physical disabilities so that we know what you're talking about. There is a time when we got to know what you're talking about. And then once again, use the authentic photos, use groups like Push Living. But, you know, if you put somebody that has, you know, ADHD or epilepsy or something in a photo, but I don't know, sometimes we need the visual cues in society, and the textual cues if you can't see. So just wanted to push that out to you, but go ahead.
No, I 100% agree. You know, we have been criticized for not having invisible disabilities on our website, and we're like, how exactly am I supposed to show that if it's a
right?
It's photo? It has to be seen. So
right.
yes, if you have your hard of hearing and we're signing, we'll have those photos. But it's Push Living, and we chose to do a niche product because our whole business model is under mobility.
Push Living. I mean, it makes sense. That's what you're doing.
Wheelchair. So we find that it's enough to handle, to deal with just in that community, the differences between a quad and a person who can walk and who can't walk. And some people like high tops and some people don't. There's enough to go around as far as trying to be inclusive within the Push Living community. So to me, to try to be an expert in invisible disabilities and psychiatric disabilities and emotional disabilities and blindness and deafness, I can't.
It's just so hard. I mean, we're a very, very large community. Yeah, we're just so large.
That's so well, and let's support them, and they support us. So if somebody writes to me and says, "Hey, I need a consultation on this," I'm going to send them to the people you tell me to send them to. I'm going to say, well, it's not really my area of expertise.
Right.
You know how to make your restaurant accessible to people who use mobility disabilities and they need actual access issues that aren't related to, you know, visual access, then I'm fine. And I'll bring in other people to help me with to put all the pieces together, because it always changes. But we did have a guy on our last tour that we did to Ireland who was in a wheelchair and he was born deaf. So that's kind of interesting. So he was born deaf. That was his primary disability. And then at age 20 something, he had a surgery which left him basically the same level as me. So he had the same functionality as me. So I was able to make sure everything was perfect for him on that tour. And I probably made some missteps. I'll be honest with you when it came to.
But you're trying.
Yeah, you know, and I did the best I could. And we're going to do better in the future. But he had a great time. And, you know, we talked on text, we talked on the iPad, and we wrote, and we had a wonderful time. He's come back, he's traveled with me twice. So I must have done okay.
Well, how large are the groups usually that travel with you?
They're small. We listen, you're talking about people in wheelchairs, and first of all, just to get a bus or a van, you know, we have a really nice luxury van that takes us. We don't want to get a big old giant bus. You know, it just makes it less personal. And how are we gonna? You're in Ireland. You want to go to pubs. You want to go to cute little places and tours. We went to Waterford. You know, we went to all these really. It's hard to get 7 wheelchairs all in the Guinness factory at one time and really be able to do it well and intimately. So it's a little bit more of a higher price, but we try to do it in the maximum 3 wheelchairs, 4 wheelchairs.
All right, cool. Well, and it's funny, we just were talking about this on the show, but there was Amtrak was going, there was multiple people that in wheelchairs that wanted to travel, and
Right.
they were going to have to take seats out of the train for all these wheelchair users, and they were going to charge them $25,000 a ticket. So needless to say, they didn't charge them $25,000 per ticket.
Sorry.
And they've traveled before together, but it's,
It's hilarious because Amtrak,
still learning.
I was actually going to speak for them. They wanted me to do some work for them, and the rate that they were paying the people with disabilities to work for them was so low, and not even at the level that the industry would have a speaker. I was like, yeah, a trainer. I was like, yeah, no, that's an insult. So I'm not going to do it. And they did it. I mean, they hired people with disabilities. They paid too little as far as I'm concerned. And they did this whole training. And then here they are, the biggest ones in the news. It's kind of shocking. I was surprised to see it. I didn't share the story because it was overplayed and overdone. And I knew they weren't going to actually charge them.
And they did not. They definitely stood up and did the right thing.
Yeah, that's the sad thing, is that was such a big story. Everybody was sharing it. There's real important issues going on in the world with people like us. I'm not trying to downplay that. That was terrible, and obviously it was wrong. But yeah, if we can't get into a restaurant, we had the ADA in 1991, and I was actually injured before that, a little bit before that, and I wasn't able to use the bathroom. I wasn't able to, in college, when I would go to the local bars and stuff in Coral Gables with my friends, I'd have to have guys pick me up and carry me into the bathroom and put me on the toilet and wait for me to pee. I'd put my pants back up on the toilet. He'd pick me back up and take me back out. I had to do this all night, once, 3 or 4 times, because I had a small bladder. I still do. But, I couldn't access anything. And now the ADA changed all that. And we have all this access. And I've been so spoiled for all these years, going to movie theaters, going to concerts, being able to do everything. And all of a sudden, designers decided that they thought it was hip to make high top tables and benches that come up off the ground, like, step-up benches or bench seating in all the restaurants. Every restaurant, I'm not talking about just some, everyone that's rebuilt and new and modern, all of Fort Lauderdale. I can't go anywhere.
Well, so, and it's not a combination, because I like when it's a combination of the tall and the lower ones. I mean, that's fine. But, and also this year, it was actually 1990. The ADA, and this is ADA 30. We are 30 years old this year. ADA is 30 years old. There's going to be so many celebrations, and the hashtag ADA 30. You're going to see a lot of stuff.
It was signed in 90, but I was talking about implementation, which mattered to me the most, than what was actually implemented.
Absolutely, and we're still implementing it, apparently.
And this, and it's like I went in with 4 girls, and we went into a girls' night. I think it was 5 girls, and they were all able-bodied. I was the only wheelchair. We were really high-end club downtown. It was going to be fun, and we had to literally go in the very back of the restaurant, past all the fun part, all the activity, all the buzz, go all the way back to the back. There was an elevator back there that I couldn't operate myself. We had to go to the top floor, where basically you rent out parties and people go when they're on dates or their big families. They rent out there to the very top floor where nobody was. That's where the ADA tables were.
Oh, that's terrible.
So when you talk about having a mix, what that means to me is those tables are going to be somewhere not good.
Well, and that is certainly not what I meant. I meant, right. That's ridiculous.
I don't like them. I mean, the point is there are people who have who have electric wheelchairs, and they can't get under even the standard tables that the ADA allows, and they like higher tables. And they also have those ones that go up and down.
Well, and that is why it's nice to have a combination, but not what you just mentioned, where you're going to throw us out totally away from everybody else. That's insulting.
It's called inclusive design. Contact Deborah or myself, and we'll help you do inclusive design. And I went to another place recently that just opened on Las Olas Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, and I walked in and I was like, oh, I was crying. It was beautiful. They had like low table, and then it went high, and then they had a bar, and then they had a low section, and then all the seats next to the bar were all low, and then they had benches on the side. But it was like I completely could sit wherever I wanted. It wasn't like there was 1 or 2 tables, and all the rest were high tops, was not inclusive, because of course, guess where everybody sits.
Well, you're right. You're right. You should take pictures of that and post it, because that is the way to do it right. You did do that. Good for you. Good for you.
I'll do more about it, but I think that's great. But we have a campaign called hashtag Drop the High Tops. And now we're finding the same problem with the designers with the hotels, Even if I go to a Marriott, I get a bed that's, okay, I'm in my wheelchair, you can see my wheelchair, but the bed's this high. I cannot possibly get up there.
Yep, I know.
Transfer that high. I mean, even if my dog Bo tried to help me, I couldn't do it. And I'd go, hey, Boo.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that can't. I have a friend that is, she's a little person, and she cannot get up on those high beds. So if she's not traveling with her husband, she can't get up on the beds. And there's so many others. It's the, you know.
People sleep in their wheelchairs. Literally, people sleep in their wheelchairs at a hotel.
That's so sad. Yeah.
I've had to have people help me. Like I contacted the concierge. I'm sorry, you have to come up and help me.
Right.
And then
I'll call you and getting up. Hope I don't have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. What is that? That's ridiculous.
Guess what? It's the high top issue and the high bed issue, which actually my friend Gina is really doing a big campaign on that on change.org. I can send you the link. Those two issues are not covered under the ADA because it's a new thing. It's like a new fad. Let's come up with some way to be inclusive.
Well, but I don't know. The ADA says that you have to provide accessibility. So they might not specifically talk about those things, but the letter of the law says that you have to provide access.
We're winning cases and we're trying to go, but when you say I'm not an advocate, I'm an advocate.
You were the one that said you weren't an advocate.
Well, I meant that I don't.
You are definitely an advocate.
What I'm trying to say is it's not my career, and I don't self-proclaim.
You're a businesswoman. You're a businesswoman. Yes.
And I want to be able to go to the hotel and go to the bathroom.
I agree.
I want to go towards Italy and have people come and join me. And I want to have open a magazine every once in a while and see somebody like me.
I agree. And that's why I love your work. So now tell the audience how to find out more about your work. What are your websites? I mean, once again, I didn't know about the photo section. I'm going to be going out there buying some photos. And we're going to put it on, because we want to be authentic. So we'll put them on our website.
And if anybody wants to model or photographers who want to take authentic images, we pay a really good percentage rate to the photographer and the model. So a little plug for that. Everybody gets paid. We're a cooperative.
Imagine that. Everybody gets paid.
Everybody gets paid. And I love those things because even a little bit of money, can help someone with their college tuition or, whatever it is. And sometimes our photos can sell for well. But all you need to go is, because we have so many different businesses. We have the podcast, we have the magazine, we have the travel company, we have an advisors section for businesses. And am I missing? Oh, we have a store. So yeah, we have all those things, but the best way to find it is pushliving.com. And then there's a bunch of links to all the different businesses. So whatever one makes the most sense to you. If you want to buy, a trip to Italy, go to the store. If you want to go,
it'll be accessible.
Photos, you'll pick just the photo one.
Yes. So pushliving.com. Now I know you're on social media. That's how we met. So how do people find you on social media?
It's the same. We have Instagram, Push Living. We have Facebook, Push Living, Twitter @PushLiving. And I personally am Deborah J. Davis. I have a Facebook page and I have a LinkedIn. So, you can follow me on my professional page. You don't want to follow me on my personal page on Facebook because I can be a little bit obnoxious about politics there.
Now I'm going to totally follow you there. I know. I also try really hard to stay away from I do stay away from the politics.
I've been told to many times. I think it's important, and frankly, I think as a woman and as a person with disabilities, I think it's critical to support equality everywhere, and that includes immigration, and that includes, my daughter is now transgender and is now a boy. And I feel that equal rights and protection for all of us really matter. And when you're the lesser of us, which unfortunately people still view us as, and in many cases we are, statistically we still are as a disability community, less equal.
I agree.
We're fighting these every day.
We're underserved, disenfranchised. Yep. I have two of my friends that have changed genders.
Yeah, I just don't like
they're humans first. Yeah. Humans first. And they get to decide. Well, I know we're out of time, but let me give you, the last, let me give you time to, say some final words. And I really do appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
I will introduce you to the Able channel, and I'll introduce you to those wonderful people in Spain that do those great photographs. And but let me turn the mic over to you for final words.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for inviting me. I was thrilled. I mean, you and I were talking about a Barbie on LinkedIn. And to be honest with you, I think that within the disability community, there can be some competitiveness. And it's like, well, you guys have already gotten a lot of this and we need more. I think the pie is big enough for all of us.
I agree.
I think we all need to support each other. And if there is misunderstanding, there's a way to do it in a way that's polite and dignified and respectful. I may not get it right. If I don't, which trust me, I don't, please just tell me. Let me know. Say, hey, listen, this is my experience. I need to do better. If we start going after people, even businesses who are trying to be inclusive, like Mattel, they're trying to be inclusive, but people are yelling at them because they didn't do it exactly right.
Right. They're trying.
Yeah.
And we should applaud that. And that's why I spend so much time looking for who's doing what, because I agree, there's enough room for everybody. And as far as you saying you don't get it right, we don't even know what that means to get it right. There's too many disruptions. The world is changing so quick. And I think, and some people are too fast to point out what you did wrong. And I remember one time I was given a speech and I spoke for 2 hours, and I thought that the content was really strong. And this woman stood in line to tell me that I had used short stature instead of little people. And I thought, did you hear anything else I said? And I mean, this was years ago, but I thought, you're going to stand in line just to make sure that you correct the one time. And, it didn't feel like it was seeking to understand. She just wanted to criticize me. And I think we can do better than that. I think we need to give people a little bit of a break, and we need to help each other, and we need to have healthy debates. Not just, you can tell sometimes, I have an article that I posted about rural America and Huawei, and there's this one guy that he just doesn't want to hear it. He just wants to complain, and he just doesn't want to talk about what are the real issues and let's seek to understand. He just wants to complain. So that's why they, I believe, call them trolls on social media.
Yes, they do. And it can be scary and it can be very harmful. And I've had it. Believe me, I've been attacked because my prices are too high. Or because I'm not nonprofit, or because I'm not inclusive enough, or
whatever.
So many things. And it's really hard. And people just need to understand that sometimes they don't really understand what goes into a business and why prices are where they are. And maybe ask, versus just coming out and attacking.
All right. And expecting us to do our work for free because we're working in the disability field. I get that all the time. No, I will not speak for you for free. Nope, I won't. You pay my expenses or I'm not going to do it. And even then I still might not be able to do it. And also there are a lot of great speakers. So anyway, well, we could talk about this all day, but I know we're out of time.
Community. Oh, we're out of time? Okay.
No, go ahead though. Finish yours.
Support the disability community. We have a disabilities, Entrepreneurs with Disabilities page. We welcome people to join that if they're an entrepreneur with a disability. And then, just buy from people with disabilities, share their stuff, like their stuff. You don't have to like it just because they're disabled, but if they're good and they're doing something positive,
support them.
They come back and maybe you could start a business, even if it's like a small business, like an Etsy business, or you want to just do proofreading, or you want to just do social media. There's so many things that people in the disability community can do. And I mean, obviously they can be programmers and all these amazing things too, makeup artists. Let's support each other. Every other community has that. The NAACP, the Rainbow Coalition, the Jewish Federation. Where's ours? And why?
Well, we are doing it. We do have it. I mean, that's why I have this show. That's why you're on. That's why you do your work. But you're right in that we need to do it more.
Yeah, we need to do more, and we need to find out. So come to pushliving.com, join our network, register as a free referral source on our digest, or whatever you call it, the listing of referrals. People click on your business and go to you. There's so many ways to collaborate. If you're a writer, if you're a model, if you're a good PR company, we're going to need all that. So I'm happy to help in any way I can. And I so appreciate you writing me. And I was so thrilled when I was commenting on your Barbie and you said, hey, come join me on my podcast.
I know, I've been meaning to do that, and you made me think of it. So
I've loved you and looked up to you for so many years, and I was thrilled.
Well, you were wonderful. Thank you. Y'all check out pushliving.com, and we really appreciate you, Deborah. So bye, everyone.
Bye.